The new player experience in Dead by Daylight is fucking trash. It's actually trash. Like, I don't know what it is about it. I don't know if it's the SBMM or like what, but like I tried to get my brother to play this game with me. After they added SBMM, and like the first killer we went up against was just outrageously good at the game. Like better than most players I've ever played, as like while I was playing Survivor. So I'm very curious. I'm very curious what this video has to say.
The new player experience in Dead by Daylight is something that's always been sort of kinda not great. With any other game, a player with 500 hours, you would think, huh, oh, wow.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and cut him off real quick. You know why the new player experience is so bad in Dead by Daylight? Because you have to spend like $90 to $100 on top of the game just to get like all of the chapters that have the important parts you need to like be decently successful, whether you're playing killer or survivor. Like even at like a very very low level, if someone else, if you don't have the perks that stop some of the bullshit in the game, and someone else does have those perks, even at a low level, they have an advantage. Dead by Daylight, I'll say it, man. I'll say it. Dead by Daylight's pay to win. If you don't have the Halloween chapter and have DS, yikes, bro. If you don't have some of the Scourge hook perks, yikes, bro. If you don't have Corrupt Intervention, yikes, bro. Like you're, it's pay to win.
They play this game a lot. Baldur's Gate 3, my game of the decade, on its release, I have 300 hours in. With Dead by Daylight and its constantly expanding roster of killers to play as and against, perks to learn their effects, counters, and how they interact with each unique killer, situation, and survivors, there is a lot
Jesus.
to learn. Dead by Daylight, at its core, does not have a very good tutorial outside
That's
of the
math, bro.
extreme basics. How to do a generator, basic commands, and how to hook survivors as the killer.
Yeah, it
A
doesn't
new
teach you
player is
tiles,
thrown straight into the
looping,
deep end, and if this player is brought into games by their friends who already play the game, they are thrown directly into the Mariana Trench without a life preserver.
yup.
The ability to get good and how to, improve at your gameplay is all out of client. And today I'm just going to be talking about what could possibly be done by behavior to make this type of thing better for newer players in an effort to make player retention better. Section 1. The new player experience. First off, we are going to rework universal perks to be useful instead of just kind of being whatever.
Bro,
Correct.
and that's another thing that I'll mention with like the pay to win. Like he's getting ready to talk about, the universal perks are fucking trash. Like they are ass. Whispers is decent. Sloppy Butcher's aight. Noed, you don't want to get used to running Noed. But like all the other ones, yikes, bro. Not all of them are like terrible, but they don't hold a candle to what you pay for, right?
Currently, Dead by Daylight has 5 free killers, 7 on
You lost your other
console, and
account,
7
boss?
free
Damn, I'm sorry.
survivors, 9 on console. When you boot up the game for the first time,
Twitch is
Trapper,
hard
Wraith,
to get in
Billy, Nurse, and
contact with to fix
Huntress
that
with
too.
Hag and Doctor for console, and Dwight, Meg, Nia, David, Bill, Claudette, and Jake with Ace and Fung on console. I do actually believe that behavior lowering the costs of older killers and survivors that they've been doing recently has been really good. Gotta give them credit where it's due. However, until you get a character to Prestige 1, all you have to work with are that character's perks and
Yeah.
universal perks. And universal perks aren't the best. Who genuinely uses This Is Not Happening? Or Shattered Hope? Universal perks aren't even niche or like excelling in a certain area. Most of them just suck, even compared to other universal perks. Things like Deja Vu,
Wait, I
Hope,
thought Whispers
No
was
One
a
Escapes Death, and
universal perk.
Spies from the Shadows, compared to things like Premonition and Dark Sense, or Shattered Hope and Unrelenting. Bad perks should be brought up to properly match the strengths or fairness of other perks, especially seeing as these are the only perks that new players will be allowed to use for a good amount of time. Next up, we would be simplifying the emblem system and making the monthly grind easier. This would allow for newer players to get blood points much more easily and unlock perks for all of their characters much more easily as well.
And that's the key, right? Skilled play leads to wins. If they don't, are they really skilled plays? Right? If your skilled play doesn't get you to win, was it really a skilled play in the first place?
This statement is still kind of a pretty good example of what's wrong with the mentality of how Dead by Daylight is designed. Survivors can be
Yeah.
wholly altruistic, die for their team, make sure their team gets a 3 out every single game, and they are still punished by the MMR system? Killer at least makes somewhat more sense, as, you know, more kills does equal doing better, sure.
Most
but I
people
think
start
that
out as
it's
Survivor
being
too,
the
like
pit and
realistically.
emblem system at least rewarded hooks more than kills. I don't think incentive.
Most people start out as Survivor, and like I've played this game since 2017. Like I've said, I played the game since 2017. I've been rank 1 on both Killer and Survivor more times than I can count. I've been high MMR with both. And I feel like, maybe I'm crazy here, maybe someone can correct me, but like I feel like leveling up as Survivor is like 10 times harder than Killer. Like, it's so much harder because like you never know if you're going to get like a team full of dunces as a solo, or if you're going to get like a godly team. Like, of course you want a godly team, but like 9 times out of 10 when I'm playing solo, I get bad teams, bro. And the solo experience in Dead by Daylight sucks. Now, I imagine it's easier if you're playing with like a 2 or a 3, especially a 4-man to like level up, but like solo leveling up Survivor, getting BP to like get your characters to prestige 1 and shit, it sucks, dude, and it takes forever.
Incentivization of kicking a player out of the game to need pressure is a good design choice necessarily, especially against newer players lacking an anti-tunnel or a looping skill, who will just get a 3-minute game every time they load up because they play against a killer who's better. There isn't a ranked mode in Dead by Daylight.
If a
There should be.
survivor escapes alive, that's a win for the survivor. Killer kills a survivor, that's a win for the killer.
I genuinely believe that an 8-hook, 0-kill game takes more skill than a 3-hook, 1-kill game. The emblem system is inherently flawed in that regard, but especially the survival category that is extremely feast or famine. You either escape or you don't. It would be cool if we just rework that category where if your team gets out, you'd get points in that, because, you know, you were a part of their escape. It's a team game for survivors.
Yeah.
And
I agree
honestly,
with that.
reward caps on emblems could be removed or even doubled per category, because as someone who runs the killer, or, you know, skill, someone runs the killer the entire game could get less blood points than someone who holds the generator button for 5 minutes and escapes while their teammate is looping. Another thing I would like to see is allowing for players to try out new killers in custom games against bots before buying them. I think allowing
Yeah,
for
that would
players
be
to
super
try out a
nice.
killer for a game or two against bots would be a great benefit. I really like the idea of the Splinter offerings. I understand they were removed in the past due to hackers abusing them and forcing people to play as the killer, so I think this is a nice little middle
Bro,
ground. A lot
thought
of
that was a
players
fever
have
dream. I
fond
forgot
memories
those
of being able to
existed.
try out a killer before, like, you know, fully committing to buying them, and this would be coming back in some way, shape, or form, even if it's just against bots while learning or trying them for the first time. In a vacuum, I think Splinters would be cool to return, assuming that hackers just like couldn't do that anymore. I don't know if that's like a possible thing, but if it was a thing, just make the Splinter like not even an offering, just be like, okay, Splinter, I use this on my killer, I run Adept, and then there you go. I can play it in a game for whatever. Again, I'm not a game designer, I'm just here for the ideas. Next, there should be an in-game explanation for how every single killer works in client. This is the important, in the Dead by Daylight client. I should be able to click play, go to the tutorial, like new section thing, and find out what things do. It shouldn't be required
used
to
to
open
be
a
able to do
wiki
that?
to understand how half the role of a game works in a multiplayer game. I genuinely think that's crazy. Despite my issues with MOBAs in general, like, you know, Dota, League of Legends, Heroes of the Storm, etc., the character menus for them are fantastic. You have a rundown of every killer's abilities, their talents in the games that have them,
I thought
and
that
what
was
they
like
can do, as
already
well
a
as their
thing.
numbers.
Like you can, I
Dead
forget
by
how to get to it,
Daylight
but you can like
kind
hover
of has
to see their
this
killer power and
with
shit.
like the killer height, speed,
Or they
etc.
get rid of
in
that.
killer bios, but there's never an explanation past a wall of text. Some people, like me, honestly, are visual learners. videos demonstrating each killer in Dead by Daylight, again, in client, would go a long way towards helping new players, or even offering blood point rewards for watching through the how to play against killer or how to play as killer videos. So new players would
They
get
literally
rewarded for
that's such a
learning.
good
Just-
idea. And they wouldn't even have to like really do it themselves. Like Oxdarva, like so many YouTubers, like good, informed, good at the game YouTubers, like already have these videos. BHVR could literally just like pay them for like a snippet of their video that they could like edit and put in the game as a tutorial. I know a lot of legalities there, a lot of horse shit, probably unrealistic, but it is something that they could do, and that's a very good idea to like help people understand how to play a killer, how to use different perks, and like those videos are already there for like every killer and almost every perk in the game, you know, and like they could have like different builds and stuff like that. I feel like that's a good idea. I know there's a lot of like legal issues, legality there. Like maybe they could like pay the content creators who are like the most informed, like Oxdarva, to like make a specific like minute to 2 minute video to put on an interface like this in the game. I just think that's a really good idea because like coming into the game with all these different killers and shit, right? Like you have so many options with all of the different perks and everything like that. It's so overwhelming, and trying to learn multiple killers at once or even just one killer, man, can be overwhelming. I get overwhelmed when a new killer comes out and I have to learn this power and everything else and what perks work with what, and God forbid you miss like 2 or 3 chapters and there's like 8 new fucking perks in the game and you have to figure out how those work and you have to figure out what's meta and what's decent so you don't get rolled over as a killer. And it's the same with Survivor. When it comes to Survivor, all the new perks that get added, the meta changes, new fun builds change, and everything else. It's like, it's so overwhelming. It would be so nice to have like a screen like this, professionally made, to like help you with that.
just put that in the tutorial section, and then you get like a little, you know, here's how to play against them. Oh, you struggle against this killer, you know, here's like an easy tutorial for this killer, here's a medium tutorial, here's like a hard tutorial, and then it would be all sorts of things talking about the killer, all their techs, how to counter the techs, how to play against them, and just in general reward learning and skill. I think that would be great. And then, of course, you would improve upon the tutorial itself in general, past the extreme basics. This could be placed in the, again, advanced tutorial section, where Survivor players would be taught to be better by tutorials about what looping is, resource
for sure.
management, zoning, better game sense, etc. I will admit that when I first started playing Dead by Daylight, I had no idea what running the killer was. I would throw pallets outside of Chase because, well, they can't get me if there's a block of wood in the way, and then I can get away quicker, type of thing. Killers probably
I'm
really
sure
love
everybody's
playing
thought that
against
once.
me. And yes, genuinely a skill issue, but I don't think a tutorial teaching you how to play should avoid teaching you more things in the game. I knew how to throw a pallet, but I never got told, hey, maybe you should save that pallet for when you're in chase to stun the killer. And I don't really think the loading screen tips do a whole lot, honestly. Like, it's just stuff like, oh, press space to hit a skill check. It's like,
Yeah.
I even used to think that the exposed status meant the killer could see me. And with that as a lovely segue, I'm now going to talk about better in-game tooltips for what does what. Currently, there is no play.
Exactly, boss man. I couldn't imagine coming into the game now with all of these killers and perks and trying to learn everything. I understand why people get frustrated coming into the game. Bro, it's so overwhelming. Like I think the statistic that this guy put like at the beginning of the video was there's like 9 million different potential killer builds, and like 18 million or some shit like different Survivor builds. Like that's insane, bro. Like you're expected to learn all that. Now obviously you can just like go external to like YouTube and go watch like Ox the best build for this killer, you know, like 50 game win streak. Look at the perks he uses and how he plays the game. But like that's time away from playing the game. Like that's research outside of playing the game. Like I bought video game. I want to play fucking video game. Now if it's something like an ARPG or something like Path of Exile or something like that, sure, you know, like I'll do a little bit of like research. Path of Exile 2 just came out. I'll do a little bit of research to figure out like what I need to be doing. But Dead by Daylight, it's a fucking party game, bro. It's a party game.
Place inside the
Like,
DVD
come on.
client to just read what things do. Sure, you can just go perk by perk, but there isn't like a list of status effects, what they do, examples of
I
what
still don't know
causes
what
them,
half the statuses do.
etc.
I have over
Also,
1,000 hours
the
on this
in-game
game, or
tooltips,
I
again,
forget.
just
I know what
aren't
all
really
of them
that
do,
useful.
but I forget.
The ones that says here's the killer you're facing, like the first few times, like that's nice, I guess. And then after that, there's nothing to go to learn about what they do really, except again out of the client. And I think that they should put more stuff in the client. Just
agree.
have more info in game regardless. Tooltips could be the things that apply past just do generators to escape level of tips. I would also like another thing where you could sort perks based off of what they do. For instance, perks would be sorted with tags such as generator, aura, killer info, etc. Perks could have multiple tags, like Deja Vu could be a generator and information tag. No one escapes death could be an endgame lethality hex tag. And then you could pick and choose tags to sort by in the perk menu, seeing as how there's over 7 pages of perks at this point.
Yeah.
The ability to sort them around by what you need at that moment would be pretty big, and newer players would be able to find things that do what they'd want them to do. The current search bar is okay. It's just very, very bare bones. That only really works on finding keywords and names. The tag system would be added as well as the search bar for those looking for perks to do certain things instead of looking for an exact perk. So you'd be able to be like, oh, I
That's
need
a
some
little bit hard to
slowdown.
do,
Let me
though,
type in
isn't it?
slowdown. Oh, the slowdown tag. Boom. Oh, deadlock, pain res, grim embrace. Wow, look at all my options. Like it would be great. Now, section 2, expanding upon communication. Currently, there really isn't a way for survivors outside of Swift, of course, to communicate with one another. The HUD elements for what a survivor is doing, which is relatively new, mind you, is very bare bones level of communication, and I think that a quick chat
Extremely.
wheel would help shrink the gap between Swift and solo queue, as well as allowing players to communicate what's going on more easily. Even with simple commands, not necessarily the gestures like the point or the
Yeah,
wave
just like
or the come here
a
type thing, just like a command that
wheel,
would show text
bro.
by the
You
player
know,
saying it, such as I'm going for
a
the
command
save,
wheel.
or killers on me, or do generators, would be an immense help. Of course, they'd make it so it isn't like spammable, because like I can already tell that someone's gonna get chased.
Like, just give us a command wheel.
It's like do gens, do gens,
That
do
would be
gens, do
so
gens,
much.
do gens, do gens. Like obviously with like spam, repetition, etc. I think that bridging the gap between Swift with your friends and solo queue is important because a lot of people do play by themselves, and I am not saying that you should get punished for playing with your friends. I think that you should be able to play better as a team without having to be in a call with your team. Section 3, blood point offerings being made universal within the role. Have you ever wanted to play another character because they just came out, or you like their aesthetic, or your last played simply isn't really speaking to you anymore, but you feel this weird obligation to play your old character until you get enough blood point offerings on the new character? This is also prevalent for players with more hours than newbies, of course, but it's still a fantastic change idea. Basically, all offerings that give blood points would be made universal within role. For example, survivor puddings,
for
wreath
real,
offerings
dude.
would be applicable
A
when playing any
fantastic
killer,
idea.
and you would have a pool
Said
to pull
that
them
for
from.
years.
Say
I think
put
everybody said
a
that for
million blood
years.
points on Nemesis, and I have a bunch of survivor puddings, but then I want to swap over and play demo, but I've never played Demogorgon before, and then all my Nemesis puddings would be there, and I could
It's
use
things
a
like
pudding.
this, right? It's things like this that really frustrate me with behavior, right? Because like it's such simple, common sense changes that would improve the quality of life with Dead by Daylight so fucking much, like so much, dude. Make it such an enjoyable game, and they're just like, nah, no thanks, we're not gonna do that. Like being able to play the new killer that comes out instead of feeling like, oh man, I have to grind like 2 weeks before this killer comes out and like stack up all my blood points so that when he comes out or she comes out or whatever, I can use all my blood points and level up the killer to a point where I have more blood point offerings where I can continue to level the killer up so I can get all the perks. So I can get all the perks for him or her and get all the perks for that character on all of my other killers and shit like that. Like common sense changes, bro. Common sense changes.
Putting on the Demogorgon, it would be great. And then I would have survivor side have the same thing, like all the survivor flower offerings, escape cakes, same deal. If I wanted to play Jill, P100 Jill, I have plenty of cakes, and then I wanted to go play like Alan Wake or something, and then my Alan Wake is level 1. He has nothing, and I have no blood points. I already spent them all on Jill. She's my favorite. And then I could play Alan Wake because he would have this universal pool of blood point offerings to pull from. That would be fantastic, I think, personally, and it would like make people not get stuck, for lack of a better term. If you have bloody party streamers and anniversary cakes, or, you know, blood point offerings that can be gotten in either side's blood web, I would have those completely universal. So if I got a bloody party streamer on Jill Valentine, I could bring it while playing the Nemesis.
Yeah, I think that's a
And
good
vice
idea
versa,
too.
of course. Sometimes I just want to be able to play any survivor I want, whether it's for a daily or a change of mood. Just want to keep playing my main, but I feel like it's a waste of blood points when I could keep leveling other characters. Add-ons and items for survivors as well could be transferable because they are technically just skins, so you could keep your med kits and your maps and your add-ons and your offerings and like all of that, because survivors really are all technically the same. So there's not really a reason you couldn't just like put a big
I'm gonna be
pool
honest, I
and
don't
put
see why
all
they
your
don't just
stuff
do
in
that, like,
there
in
and then
general with
access
offerings.
it from anyone
making
in the
them, like,
pool. Like, I think that would be great.
Killer WOD,
It
so
just
like every
kind of
killer has all the
feels
offerings,
like you're leaving
and
money on the
survivor WOD,
table
all
if
the
you're
survivors
not
have all
bringing
the
a blood
offerings.
point
I don't see why
offering.
they don't
You know
just
what I
do
mean?
that.
It just kind of feels bad.
It's
Section
not gonna make map
4,
offerings
fixing
any more of a
invisible
fucking
walls
problem.
and collision. I will admit this is a little bit of a killer-sided issue, and I'm doing it for me because if you've seen any of my other series of like Whipped Into Shape where I have to explain what the hitbox is, what you can and can't hit over, what makes sense, it could just really use a patch of just like going over collision and making it make sense. Most of the time, hitboxes don't make sense on killers that rely on collision, like Huntress Hatchets, the Nemesis Tentacle, the Xenomorph Tail. I can think of a really egregious example right now on Yamaoka where there's just an invisible
Yeah.
hitbox that goes
Behavior's
to the
always
sky,
been terrible at
light
hitboxes,
hitting walls that don't make sense. Same with Billy. Like, there's just a lot of inconsistent invisible walls, and that can be a pain point to players that are trying to learn. For new players specifically, this would mainly apply to like Huntress and Hillbilly, of course. Most maps just kind of need to be fully gone over, but invisible collision and losing hits as a result of invisible collision just kind of sucks, dude. Section 5, we are going to be updating the Shrine of Secrets. Currently, with a ballooning number of perks in Dead by Daylight, the Shrine of Secrets is just kind of not worth it.
Yeah, it's
There
pretty
are
trash.
hundreds of perks in Dead by Daylight, and the Shrine
You
has
get 4
4
new ones a
spots.
week.
And sometimes those 4 spots can just be free perks. It should have more perks. Even double the current or more would make it much more worth it, as well as guaranteeing that free perks can't come to the shrine would be nice. I don't need agitation in the Shrine of Secrets, I promise you. I don't need Nurse's Calling. I don't need Sprint Burst. Like, perks from free characters simply should not go in the shrine, ever. With hundreds of perks in the game, having a weekly shrine reset have free perks in it that many players just have already or just don't want it feels like kind of a joke and not a very funny one. It doesn't feel like a funny joke. It just feels kind of bad. For this, add more slots, remove the ability to get free perks in it, bada bing, bada boom. Trying to
4 killer
Secrets.
perks, 4 survivor perks.
For section
Feel like that's
6,
fair.
my last one, this is kind of a fun one, kind of a learning type of thing, kind of a getting more blood points type of thing. Like, it's a bunch of things rolled into one. Section 6 is going to be the random loadout button. This is a new thing, a new idea taken from Chaos Shuffle, except this would apply to both sides and simply allow for players to experience a wide variety of perks outside of a randomly selected mode. This would be a button on your build screen that would basically turn it into randomize your perk builds. It would give you a blood point bonus, and it would allow for people that want to experience Chaos Shuffle to not split queues, overall reducing queue times. Of course, Chaos Shuffle would still be a thing because, you know, everyone in the lobby to have random perks would be fun. But this type of thing would be decent for new players to learn a wide variety of perks year round, find
Yeah.
favorites outside of
see that
simple
being
tier
interesting.
lists, and being able to try them without having to buy a character for a very limited resource, which is shards. Of course, I know behavior's trying to like get people to spend money and spend cells, but like realistically, people use shards for new characters. It's just how it is. And more perk variety for the game overall would be good. I'm sure that, you know, killers don't want to see like DS Unbreakable exhaustion perk, gen perk every single game for every single survivor all the
Man,
time.
that's just
and
what
then
DVD
survivors
is
don't
and
wanna see
always
slow
has
down,
been,
slow down,
isn't it
slow
though?
down, slow down.
Always
Like
just
more
meta.
perk variety for the game overall would be good. Of course, a lot of perks would need to be rebalanced because a lot of them are just abysmally terrible. But we covered that earlier when talking about universal perks. But in general, overall perks should be stronger, just not S tier meta picks. But there should be like a reason to run something like Desperate Measures when botany knowledge exists. A lot of things simply don't have a niche that they excel in, or they have a version of it that is simply better. Anyway, this has been Horserer trying to advocate for our game that we love to be the best that it can be. Is there anything I missed as far as improving the new player experience? What would you add if given the option? I'm going to be making this a series as I have a lot more ideas. So
That was a good video. I think for sure the new player experience is like bad, dude. He hit like a lot of like, he hit the nail on the head with a lot of stuff, but I think SBMM, skill based matchmaking, still makes like the new player experience hell, regardless of a lot of things. But like for sure, like we need in game shit teaching us how to play the game. We need in game information, like giving us good, not BHVR, like not behavior good, but like actual good killer and survivor builds to use that would be useful. Solo queue survivor needs so much help. We just really need a radial menu with like a bunch of different commands and options for voice lines like he had in the game, like do gens, don't rescue me, killer camping, um, need healing, come help me with this gen, like shit like that. Just basic stuff like that that would really help. Like information on how to play a killer, like stuff to where you don't have to like externally go seek it out, and like you're doing homework on a party game. Like I said, when it comes to the games like ARPGs, like Diablo, Path of Exile, even hardcore games like Escape from Tarkov, right? Like having to go external makes a little bit of sense. They're like hardcore games, but this is a fucking party game, bro. Like I shouldn't have to be doing homework. Like, and even as a player with like 1,200 hours on this game, and like probably 800 of that being in killer, like I still get overwhelmed when a new killer comes out, and I have to learn their power and all that, just balls to the wall immediately, hardly having any idea what it does unless I go watch a YouTube video, right? Same with the perks. It's just so overwhelming, and putting perks together for that killer, I feel like if they had all of that stuff lined up, professionally made, like decent killer builds, decent survivor builds with the new perks, shit like that, I feel like it would help the new player experience a lot. And the new player experience definitely does need a lot of work. That was a good one though. I enjoyed that one. That was a really good video.